Welcome to Gross Anatomy.
We're live at Gross Anatomy, and I am Dr. Jason Cohen, and you are?
Raya O'Neill.
And today, what are we talking about? We're talking about horrible, tragic stuff, eh?
Talking about horrible, tragic stuff, but also like trending things that I'm discovering on the internet.
Trending and tragedy.
Yeah, the tease.
And I think somewhat where reality and pop culture and fiction kind of seem to meet to some degree. It almost feels like an episode of ER or Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, it does, especially these days.
It really does. There's been a lot of craziness going on.
Well, I was just scrolling on TikTok. Well, I was really like, you know, how we were all in our TikTok phase during the height of COVID. Then I feel like people kind of like got back to normal, whatever normal is. And now I'm back on TikTok. Like I am scrolling for a few hours before I go to bed, when I wake up, when I have free time. So last night I went to bed at like 2:30 because I was up late working. And I was watching.
You were up late TikToking.
I was up late working and I was like, okay, I got to go to bed. It was 2. So I'm laying on my stomach. Are you a stomach sleeper or a side sleeper or a back sleeper?
The answer is yes, but my deep best sleep are when I sleep on my tummy.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess me too. I'm usually like a little fetal position.
I do it all. But I know my deep sleep is when I want to get deep sleep, I sleep on my belly.
I was on my belly and like I had my one leg bent.
Mm-hmm.
And I was watching a TikTok that it was a chiropractor, and he was like, if you sleep on your stomach with one leg up, like as I was in the position, he was like, you're hurting your lower back, you're tightening your hip flexors. Like we shouldn't be sleeping like that, he said.
Ah, and there you go. Everything you need to know you learn on TikTok, eh?
Then I was watching all of these back cracking videos and then I fell asleep. But I woke up at 4 and it was like playing on a loop, playing on a loop, playing on a loop.
Oh, wow. You woke up at 4 deliberately or you just happened to have woken up at 4?
I left the light on. So yeah.
Got it.
The other thing I saw trending on TikTok, which is weird, and I want to try it. My mom said no because I would waste her balsamic vinegar, was a healthy Coca-Cola. It's like, I don't even know what the measurements are, but it's balsamic vinegar and a flavored seltzer or just seltzer water.
Ooh.
It's
like, it's not, it's vinegar water.
It's vinegar water.
You know what's weird about vinegar? I sometimes choke on it. Do you ever choke on vinegar?
Yeah, because it's quite strong.
Yeah, and I actually start choking sometimes. I have a hyper-reflexic gag, and sometimes vinegar makes me just ridiculously start choking.
I mean, even the smell of it can do that.
The smell does not do that to me. But speaking of choking, I actually had the Heimlich maneuver done to me once.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to say today.
No. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, I finished hockey practice and I was with my buddies Joey, and I think my friend Stu, and our coach, our hockey coach, Steve Brown. And we were in Jimmy's coffee shop on the Upper East Side eating tuna sandwiches and pickles. And all of a sudden, I started choking. And my friends and coaches started cracking up because they didn't know what was going on with me. They started laughing. But the waiter, who I knew there for years, ran over to me and sees me, the classic hand, sign of choking is I put my hand to my throat. And he goes to me, "Are you choking?" And I nod my head because I was choking. And they're all laughing. And he goes, "Are you serious?" Because they're all laughing. And I'm nodding my head because I was choking. And he gets behind me and he Heimlichs the crap out of me. And the pickle then went flying across the room, across the coffee shop.
Oh my God.
I saved my life. The guy from Jimmy's coffee shop saved my life. And he was so shaken. I went back and finished my tuna sandwich and my friends were cracking up. They were like, they were in total disbelief.
It's scary when when you're choking. Like you're like,
it was scary. It was definitely scary.
Pickles, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I love pickles and I used to love a good tuna sandwich.
Yeah. I love tuna.
Yeah. So what happened in the world that we're talking about in Lauren's hometown?
Yeah, it is Lauren's hometown. And she actually said her father, that's the doctor that's the building he goes to see his doctor now. Well,
I know, that's crazy.
I'm jumping ahead a little, but there was the shooting, the gunman that killed his surgeon and 3 other people
in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma.
All too often, a patient is unhappy or whatever, but this guy, the main issue with this guy was he was in pain. And it sounds like he was having trouble getting in to be seen. But he went berserk, I guess, and went in and just shot up, whoever was in his way and the surgeon and killed him.
Yeah. Receptionist, doctor, 2 doctors and a visitor.
I mean, it really sounds like episodes of ER or Grey's Anatomy.
It was an episode of Grey's Anatomy, actually.
Yeah. So it reminds me, well, it's so many things. We the world have serious problems right now on so many levels. I mean, pain and opiates and all of that is a whole other thing. But it also just reminds me when I went to medical school and residency in Brooklyn at Kings County Hospital. Right before I got there, I may have been a medical student, but I wasn't yet doing my surgery residency. A similar kind of thing happened. There was and we may have even talked about it on the podcast. There was the head of trauma surgery, who was supposedly a great guy. I never got to meet him. Was up in his office, and there was a disgruntled family member of a patient who I think had died relating to a trauma. And it may have been like gang related. Back in the day, there was a lot of drugs and gang related stuff. And he came upstairs, and the surgery office was right in the same area where the patient wards were. And he came upstairs to the trauma or the surgery office, I guess, opened the door and had a shotgun and opened fire and just shot up the head of surgery, or the head of trauma surgery, just shot him up. And I remember, hearing about it, that the residents tried operating on him or saving him, the guy right there on the floor in the office. They tried to open up his chest to try to control the bleeding and the blood flow, but the guy, died. And it was, and that was probably 30 years ago.
Wow.
And now, that kind of thing never ends, I guess, and is an ongoing issue. And it's, I don't know what it means, and I don't know what the answer is. But there's it raises a lot of questions and concerns.
It does. It is, as the story you just said, doctors definitely are targeted by patients. What do you do? Have you had a patient that came out of surgery and just was nonstop calling, checking in? I'm in pain. This isn't working. This isn't helping. I'm still hurting.
Definitely, pain is definitely an issue with surgery, and usually it's usually the nurses in the recovery room or the anesthesiologists who are managing the pain after surgery. I usually don't operate for pain. I usually operate for other reasons, but sometimes it requires heavy doses of narcotics and things like that to control the pain, at least in the acute setting. In terms of the chronic setting, luckily, I'm very lucky. I don't necessarily deal with chronic kinds of pain and back pain, which I know could be excruciating and debilitating. And that's definitely a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
After the shooting, did Cedars-Sinai, did they put anything out? Did they have any discussions? Is there some sort of new protocol now?
That's a really good thought, and I'm not sure if or what hospitals may have instituted new policies about things. There is security always, at the doors of many hospitals, but I've never seen any kind of metal detectors ever at any hospitals, or gun detectors. I've never seen that.
I know the ER at Cedars has one, or I know there's a guy that checks your bag if you have a bag.
Maybe, but there are a lot of ways into the hospital. That it's not just through an ER. There are a lot of different ways into hospitals, and they're talking about that with the shootings at schools too, about how to try to eliminate that, and are there things to do with the doors and things. I don't know. As far as I know, there really isn't anything like that. What's crazy is when I was back doing my residency and medical school at that same hospital, Kings County in Brooklyn, there was a guy who was doing his residency who carried a fanny pack, and I never saw it, but he claimed that he had a gun in his fanny pack.
You're kidding.
Yeah, we were in East Flatbush, Brooklyn. At the time, it was a real kind of, not dangerous, but at night it could be dangerous. And I was there in the 90s, and when drugs and crack and all of that were kind of a thing, were a bigger thing than they are today, and a lot of gang violence and things like that. So yeah, this guy, claimed. And he had a funny walk. He had a real tough guy walk. I remember the guy, but he claimed that he had a gun in his fanny pack. He probably did, knowing who the guy was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But I never saw it. And as far as I know, he never used it.
Guns freak me out. It's a scary world we're living in. Have you seen the movie John Q?
No. Is that, who's in that? Keanu Reeves?
Denzel Washington.
Oh, Denzel Washington. I think I've seen bits of it. Why? What is that about?
It's about a father whose 9-year-old son needs a transplant, like a life-saving transplant. But they're a low-income family. Insurance isn't covering it, or they don't have insurance, rather. They won't do it pro bono. And so he holds the surgeon hostage and a few patients in the ER room. Well, in the ER. The ER room is redundant. The emergency room.
It's the room. It's the emergency room.
Yeah, it's just the ER.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I just cried.
I did see. I don't know. I don't think I saw it from start to finish, but I definitely remember what. Now that you reminded me of it, I've definitely seen bits of it. Yeah. I love Denzel.
Me too. And it's crazy that movie is kind of being it's on Netflix. You know how Netflix brings movies to the top. It's not the top 10, but it's an old. It's from the early 2000s. But it's kind of being featured on Netflix, and then this happened.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird. I don't know.
It is kind of weird. Does it end? Remind me how it ends.
It ends with the son gets the transplant. He was going to kill himself so that they could take his heart and give it to the son.
Right.
They ended up getting the heart. And then he does get sentenced to jail for holding those people hostage.
But he doesn't die.
He doesn't die.
Oh, good.
Nobody dies.
What's that?
Nobody dies.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. But you really feel like he's going to die.
Oh my God, yeah, I was sobbing.
Yeah. No, I know. That's a pretty crazy movie. Denzel is one of the reasons I became a doctor.
Really?
I think I've told the story, but one of my favorite TV shows growing up was St. Elsewhere, which is old, way before your time, but it was about this kind of underserved hospital. And Denzel I think it was one of his earliest roles, plays a young surgeon, I think, a Harvard-trained surgeon, dealing with discrimination and all that stuff. But I loved that show, and I loved him in that show. And so I actually got to meet him years later when I was already a surgeon, and I told him that story. And I usually don't get stupid over celebrities, but I kind of got goo-goo and nervous.
I mean, he's a top 5.
Yeah. And I shared that story with him, and he just looked at me like, oh, okay. You're an idiot. You're a moron. It's kind of how I felt when I shared that story with him, that he kind of looked at me, you're a fool, but, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I was just so nervous and excited to meet him.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's hard to say for sure. I'm trying to think. There was something else that I was thinking about in terms of violence and healthcare, but I'm totally blanking on it now. Oh, here. Now I remember. There's the whole gun control, the whole gun, Second Amendment thing. And is this totally stupid? This is my idea. Okay, are you ready?
Oh, God.
I knew I wanted to share this. This is my idea. Just like in order for us to get a driver's license, and to be able to drive a car, we have to take a whole class. We have to do driver's ed. We have to do a written test. we have to do a road test, and then we have to renew our license. Why don't we have that for guns?
It's got to be more complex than that. I don't understand how someone can purchase an AR-15 in any AR style like assault.
No, but I can't even buy a car unless I have a driver's license. I can't get a car insured. So I don't understand why don't they do that for guns? Why don't they make you take a class? Why don't they make you also be 21? Why don't they also make you have to do a written and an actual class and a safety? And why don't they make it like really strict, and make it like real rules, just like with cars? I don't, to me, it just sounds so simple, like a simple, and then why don't they make you have to renew your license and things like that? I don't understand. To me, that would make sense.
Yeah, to normal people, it makes sense.
But I've never heard anyone propose anything like that, right? Have you ever heard anyone propose that?
I mean, I've seen people post about it, like the way that we're talking about it. People that don't have any power.
Right. Like us.
Yeah, unfortunately. People like us, no power, saying the right thing, doing the right things.
I didn't quite understand what, Matthew McConaughey got up and gave this whole press conference.
I didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't? I only heard parts of it on the radio, about the gun, because the most recent shooting took place.
He's from there.
Right. He's from there. Exactly. Just like Lauren is from Tulsa. where the Tulsa, where this the police, where the doctor shooting happened. But did he propose any solutions?
I got to watch it. I didn't see any snippets or anything, but what was the gist of what he was saying?
It was just like, there's a way to honor the Second Amendment, but we got to be smart about it. But I didn't hear then like what his solution or his plan or anything like that was. But I think he should talk to me, and I'll share with him my plan, which I just shared with you.
Yeah, share it with your local politicians.
Yeah, they'll probably call me an idiot.
It's really scary, the world we're living in. I'll tell you that.
The world is scary, but I think a big part of it is mental health and mental wellness, and I think that's with everything, with why this guy was in so much pain that he decided to go out and go shooting. Like COVID has been so harmful to society, I think, in terms of isolation and just stress and trouble, and I don't know. Or it's just the times we're in. I don't know.
Times are in, but I don't blame COVID or mental health on the shooter that killed those innocent kids in the school. This guy that killed his doctor. Like, you got to be a monster.
You got to be a monster. Yeah, I guess. But every monster, I think, has a mom and a dad, or at least a mom. And I don't know. Who knows? I don't know.
I know.
God, that's depressing.
This is a depressing episode.
It was.
Do we have any happy ending spin for this thing?
Well,
any happy spin for the ending? Not happy ending spin.
Yeah, not a happy ending spin.
No. Happy spin for our ending.
It's almost the weekend. I'm going to Charleston for a bachelorette this weekend.
Ooh.
First time going to Charleston.
Okay. What are you going to be doing in Charleston? What is there to do for a bachelorette party?
We're going. So it's my best friend since kindergarten, or really since kindergarten, preschool, whatever. She used to live there. So you know what? We're going out to eat. We're going to do walk around town, go on a boat cruise.
Oh, boat cruise. There you go.
But I think it's going to be a low key bachelorette, nice.
Like you guys are serious and mature now. You're not little kids anymore, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm they're going to be strippers?
Right, exactly.
God, no. I'm okay.
Chippendales, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. Speaking of Chippendales, when my sister was in college, she's 2 years younger than I am, my younger sister. She went to SUNY Albany.
Okay.
Upstate New York. And she had a good friend in college who was this insanely handsome guy, ridiculous. I wonder where he is today. I'm going to say his name. His name was Chris Jane. And he was like, kind of like a Liam's, who's the Helmsworth brother, who's Thor. He kind of had a Thor thing going, like the Thor brother of the Helmsworth. And he was ridiculous. And I think he was pre-med, believe it or not, to spin it into gross anatomy. I think he was pre-med, but he one summer asked my sister if he could, because we lived in New York City, he asked my sister if he could stay at our place. So he actually stayed with my mother, who was at that time already divorced. He lived with my mother in her apartment in New York City. And my sister, and I think I was probably already in med school, or maybe I was home. I'm not sure. No, I was probably already in med school, but I would be at my mom's a lot. And there was this, like, I'd show up and we'd have dinner, and there'd be like this hot guy from upstate New York, like having dinner with us without a shirt on. And my mom, I think, just loved having this like hot stud there. But the way he paid for his living there in the summer was he was a Chippendales dancer. And that's what he did that summer. He was basically a male stripper.
You're kidding.
No.
Whoa.
I think it was probably my mom's favorite summer of her life, maybe.
Oh my God.
Because I'd showed up to dinner and he'd be there topless, sitting at dinner, like all like hot, and my mom would be like, ooh, it was ridiculous.
We got to get my friend, Dr. Natalia Petrozella, she has a podcast actually called Past and Present. And she did like a deep dive of the whole story of Chippendales and like.
Ooh, interesting. Maybe she knows Chris Jane or whatever became of him. Chris Jane. I remember he was pre-med. I wonder if he ever became a doctor. That would be an interesting story to tell.
I did just look him up.
Did you find him?
I think I found him. Looks like he's an OB-GYN.
No way. Wow. Is he hot?
He looks very bald in this picture.
He had cool hair back then. He was blonde. He was a blonde. I mean, he was a Helmsworth. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. I wonder if it's the same guy, and hopefully we don't embarrass him and his family.
Yeah, sorry. Or we just helped you. Now you're going to be an influencer.
There you go. So thanks for joining us, everybody, at Gross Anatomy.
So much fun.
Tune in. Give us comments. Give us feedback. Tell us stories. Ask us questions. Check out all of our social media.
Check it out.
Check it out.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to Gross Anatomy, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can check out more episodes on the evolving sights, smells, and sounds of medicine. Gross Anatomy is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.